friends, and welcome to another episode of the Bonsai podcast by Blue Nose Trading. I'm your host, Tori Solis, and today I'm going to be talking with Denise Soultanian of DMS Pottery. Denise has an amazing energy, and I enjoyed chatting with her today about making ovals, artistic styles, raku-fired pots, collecting trees, home studio space practice, managing social media, setting goals, and selling work as an introverted person. Lots to unpack here today, so let's dive right in. All right, another episode of the Bonsai podcast. I am here with Denise. Denise, how do you say your last name?
Soultanian.
Soultanian. I just didn't want to get it wrong. Awesome. So, from what I've read about you, I read your Etsy interview that you had on there.
Oh, yeah.
So, I went through that, and it seems like you started at 2D in college and then moved into ceramics later. I did the same journey.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat because I also, I started in painting. So I did acrylics. What was your original 2D medium?
Yeah, I liked drawing with pen and ink or charcoal and also did a lot of acrylic. And I think I've always liked sculpture, but my family was living in Chicago and I was in Pittsburgh for school, and I was like, couldn't figure out how I'd get all these sculptures home. So I thought, like, I'm very practical, I guess, in some ways. So I was like, well, I think I'll just do everything on paper.
I ended up in art so weird because I had to take an art class, and I was just like, put me in whatever fits. And they put me in painting, and then I just liked the painting teacher a lot, and I kept taking it. And then I ended up having this background in painting just because it was a relief from I was originally a science major. So it was like a relief to have all this painting background. And then at my school, it felt like the 2D department was like, don't let the 3D people take our kids. Don't let them see the clay. They'll leave us. I never really got over there. And then I just kind of eventually way later was like, just ended up in clay kind of randomly.
So I don't really know that much about you. So are you you like a ceramic
artist? Yeah, I'm a potter
Mm-hmm.
right now. I do that as my whole thing right now.
Awesome. Are you making I know this, I'm not probably supposed to be interviewing you.
No, this is just a conversation. I'm here to chat.
Okay, great. Are you making mostly bonsai pots, or are you doing a lot of different things?
I do a lot of bonsai pots, and I also really like to make drinkware specifically. I've seen that you also make some really nice teacups.
Yeah, I like to make teacups, mugs. I think that's super fun I love that. Although I can be really whimsical, I do love the practicality of like being able to eat off one of the plates you make.
You said you were practical. Seems like a thread.
Yeah. I mean, I have both aspects of being super practical and kind of weird. So
I agree. I feel the same way. I like to be really, really practical because sometimes especially in college, it'd be like we'd look at some art or something weird, and I have this initial gut reaction, which I try to work past. But my initial reaction to most things is, okay, but what does it do? What's it for? Why?
Yeah,
what do I need? What do I do with that? Where's it? Does it just sit on a shelf? At least if it's just made to sit on a shelf, that's what it does. That's a cool answer, but I gotta know what it do?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love the function of practical work because there's a goal there to work for. Because when you're making a mug or a piece of drinkware, you could just make it, but there's a finesse to what makes it a good mug.
Exactly.
And I think it's also really an opinionated thing because I'm a mug hugger. I gotta put my whole hand through it. So my handles are huge because you don't hold the handle, you put your hand through the handle, and it's
right. Oh, that's interesting.
It's a support for me.
That kind of talks about who you are in a way too. It's like this isn't just a 2-finger handle, this
sometimes
like whole hand. Yeah.
What kind of handles do you like to do, typically?
I have been doing these shapes that are just 2-finger handles. Actually, I know that people that are listening, this is, my friend made this. My friend Josh made this.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, it's so fun. He's doing this, Shino kind of finish that has, maybe looks a little bit like wood firing. And actually, getting back to bonsai pots, I would really like to get into wood firing with the bonsai pots. I am so close. There's something happening 3 hours away from here. Where you'd sign up and you would load this wood-fired kiln and you would eat Thanksgiving dinner with all the potters, and then for the next 3 days you'd be loading in the wood, and My family said that I really need to be home for Thanksgiving, so maybe next time they do it.
Maybe it would be better if it wasn't right on Thanksgiving, because a lot of people do have
Exactly.
probably family commitments. I feel like that's
Yeah,
fair. Like if they
yeah,
did it like the week before, like a pottery
right.
Friendsgiving or
I'm
something
gonna
like that,
contact them and find out when their next wood firing is, because I think that would be a really cool
that
effect
would be
for the
sweet. I've
bonsai
asked
pot.
about them down here too, but it seems like you gotta drive near to Austin to find one, and that's a bit. For
Right.
me, it's a bit. It's like 4 hours, so maybe
Yeah.
someday. So,
Yeah.
how did you get started in clay? How did you end up with the hands in the dirt?
I so my kids are now teenagers, but when they were younger, a friend of mine, I was swimming at the time, and I was talking to this friend of mine. She said from the swim club or whatever, and she was like, Denise, there's this pottery studio I just joined. I think you would love it. And so I tried it with my kids. Like I was like, oh, I'll take my
Yeah.
kids there. And then my kids like they did like it, but I
Mhm.
was hooked.
It was for
I
you.
yeah, I used every like excuse I could to get myself there. Any excuse I had, like I gotta go, the pots are gonna dry. I gotta go, they want me to glaze. Like whatever excuse I had, I just fell in love with it. And then after 6 months, my friends' kids were also interested in it, so I talked to the studio and asked if I could be one of the teachers.
Oh,
And I
sweet.
didn't really have like a ton of experience. I only had
Oh, I
six
think
months
that's
experience,
absolutely normal.
but they said sure. And so I've been teaching there. I don't know if it's been like 5 years now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sweet. So you're basically self-taught through teaching.
In a way,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, me too. Well, not necessarily through teaching, but like I'm self-taught too. I took a couple class, like I taught myself how to throw at home, watching some videos with the Earth Nation ceramics with Dante's videos, his teaching videos.
Oh.
So I taught myself how to throw, and then I was like, I should probably make sure I'm not messing this all up. So then I went and took some community college ceramics courses, like one
Yeah.
and two. And after that, that was kind of just like an affirmation. Like I went in there and got some validation where it was like, you are doing okay, you're doing good, good job. And I was like,
That
okay,
was
cool.
smart.
So this isn't gonna kill anybody. I'm gonna sell these bowls now.
I think if you love anything, like if you're really passionate about anything, you'll find a way to learn it.
I do too. And also, just the things that are meant to be seem to kind of manifest. I was just kind of like, I really like something in my brain was like, I need a pottery wheel. Like, I was like, I really want to do this. I just got this itch and this obsession, and I'd never even touched clay. And I was just like watching videos and reading about it, and I was like, I gotta do this. And then,
Yeah.
like, a wheel popped up on eBay that was like the next town over from me. Like, so I was able to like just
Wow.
drive over and get it, and I was like, all right, here it
It's meant to
is.
be.
Yeah, and then like I started my YouTube channel, and I started the first day that I plugged in the wheel with the first ball of clay I ever put on it,
Oh,
and I started
wow.
recording.
I didn't know you had a YouTube channel. I might have to go find that very first video.
Oh yeah, it's episode one of my vlog. It's something to like starting in clay. It's also starting in YouTube because it was like, I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
document this and make
Yeah.
this, like, I want to show how people suck at stuff. Because all the videos that I was watching to learn from, like, everybody was so talented. And, like, bless them, because they, that's why they're teaching. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna suck at this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
gonna
think it's
strive for better, but, like, this is.
I think it's refreshing to see, especially for other beginners. Like as a beginner, it's like it's nice to see that other people are starting things too and making mistakes and being able to laugh about it and like move on and learn and do the research to make themselves better.
Oh, I just edited a video. It'll be out by the time this podcast is out at some point, but I made my first oval. And I don't know what
Oh.
I did. I threw the walls, but when I'm recording the whole process and I go to pull the thing out of the glaze fire and it's just like, "Ooh," like all you bent, and I'm like, oh no.
The ovals are so tricky. The
They
ovals
make me
are
so
really
mad.
yeah. So I've only been doing the bonsai pots now for 2 years, and I guess I was talking to Jonas Tupui, who's like I guess an expert locally where I am on bonsai.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I mean he is an expert where we are, and he was saying that American potters do a lot of rounds, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna try and do the ovals, but I feel like my success rate's maybe like 65 or
It's
70%,
way better than
and
mine.
it's so frustrating. Yeah, the
They
ovals are
make me so
crazy.
mad. What is your process for them? Like, what have you tried? There's a few different ways to build them. How are you going
Yeah.
about it?
So I have tried. And I brought some pots here. I know
Oh, sweet.
listeners are not on.
The Patreon people might be able to see it.
Oh, okay.
If you're cool with me sharing it with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's an oval. I picked the one that was successful. But for this one, I threw the wall. I just threw a round
Yeah.
wall, and then I wired that off. And as soon as I could, I squashed in the sides. The trick that I have found that I think helps me is putting it onto the slab like as soon as I can, like as soon as I can handle the oval, like getting it on the slab is really important. And then what I also did is on the walls when I was throwing it, I left like a thicker part down here so that it could attach in there. I didn't have to really put that coil of clay in the sides of the pot. So I made the wall a little thicker on the bottom.
I tried that too. It's good.
And I've also tried where you make a round and then you cut a little dart in here and you squish the sides in.
Ooh,
You
I've
put that
seen
dart in
that.
the center, but I don't know. It wasn't
It sounds like the bottom would do weird things with the clay memory after squishing it.
exactly. Yeah, I
I'm
didn't have a lot of good luck with that. And then one of the things I have learned is with my feet, I try and make my feet on the longer side because with the bigger pots, I found that they start to sag in the kiln.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and you probably know this also, I put right between the feet, I put a little piece of scrap clay that kind of
Little,
travels with the pot
I
all the
call them
way.
the little nuggies.
Yes.
Little tiny nuggets.
Yeah. So that stuff, because I've had the pots melt, in the glaze firing, and it's like, why isn't this
Uh,
round? Or like, what happened?
Sometimes the little nuggets get stuck because my speckled body has that, I
Oh,
forget if it's magnesium or manganese, I mix them both up, but the one that makes speckles, it's that one, and the nuggets will stick. So I have like a
oh.
specific little bonk hammer where I have to like bonk the little nuggets off.
Have you tried using alumina mixed with wax
I
between
need to.
those? Yeah, it might help you. I guess I've
I
heard the
do.
alumina is like little ball bearings, and you can put that in
I
between.
need to get some of that. I need that in general for the bottom because I use so much kiln wash because that magnesium, manganese,
Yeah,
whichever
I don't
one.
know which one. I think it must be
It
manganese.
doesn't
I think it's manganese.
manganese. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
but
go
I
with
can see
manganese, and if we're wrong, forgive us, internet. But the the manganese, it sticks. There's a lot of plucking, so I'm always fighting plucking with kiln wash. So the alumina would probably be a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, give it a try.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So you found yourself making bonsai pots because you had a super cool ramen bowl glaze?
Exactly. My friend, she started a plant, like, like a collection of people that made pots and plants, and she had a big show, like, in an outdoor area, or a sale. And I had brought some planters that I had made. I wasn't doing bonsai pots at the time. And this guy who's a botanist came up to me, but he saw one of my ramen bowls and he was like, that would make a great bonsai pot. I'm like, tell me more. And so I started making them, and then I posted them on 99 Cent Bonsai on Facebook, and they sold like right away. And I was like, oh, I love this. Like I love plants. I've always loved plants, and so it was like such a great thing that I get to make something. It goes out in the world. It's part of this collaboration with another artist who's going to put their tree in there, and I just thought that was so cool.
I
Yeah,
agree. I think that's one of my favorite parts is that collaborative process and seeing what other people put in your pots.
you just
Like
don't know, right?
no, and even when it's not anything I would have expected, and they share it on either like Etsy reviews or like just to my Instagram or send it to me, I'm just like, wow, like I love this. Like I love that this was your vision and that like I helped with that with this pot.
Yeah.
Someone sent me just yesterday. It was like a rose of Sharon silhouette, like in winter silhouette, in this like really I'm not really great at the styles, so I might be wrong here, but my interpretation of it was kind of like a windswept, but kind of elongated in kind of like a bunjin that was kind of windswept sort of way. It
Yeah.
was just really cool to see, and they had it, it's like super tall and long, and they had it in one of my tiny little round mame pots, and I was just like, I love this.
It's really
Because
cool.
do you have any trees? Like, do you keep any bonsai?
We are just, my husband and I belong to the local club, and it's the Midori Bonsai Club, and we are just slowly getting into that. And I personally love like walking around the neighborhood and finding little tiny trees growing around. And in our yard, we pick all the like Japanese maple seedlings or Is that what they're called? Like tiny little guys.
Yeah,
And
little baby
yeah,
trees.
little babies. And we've got a whole bunch of those. And my husband's really into the California native plants, so he's
Uh-huh.
picked up, from the nursery, like some native plants that are, so we're kind of definitely we're learning and we're very experimental and maybe we're
Bonsai
following the rules.
curious.
Yes,
I think that's
exactly.
where I'm at. I also really interested in the natives. It's so cool that you're up there and you're just like, yeah, I pick Japanese maples out of my yard. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. Like I pulled mimosas out of my yard.
Oh,
They're invasive, so it's not the
oh,
best. But I do pull them up and play with them a little bit. But like down here, something really cool that I got recently that I've just started. It's not impressive. It's a little stick in a pot right now, but is the bald cypress.
oh,
A super
wow.
cool tree that we have down here. So I'm pretty excited to kind of work with that. And then also I got some trees with my club through collection at the park. So I've got some like elms that are kind of native to down here
Oh, that's
that are like
cool.
collected. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. And I'm with the Dallas Bonsai Society, and so I'm hoping that they're gonna hold my hand and walk me through making these trees into something interesting.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is you probably have a lot of pots to choose from.
Yeah, I like weird pots, so I'm gonna put my trees into my sculpture pots, and they might not go to any awards, but they're gonna be so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I like to make creatures that match trees. Like so, for a lot
Oh,
of my own trees, I like to like envision like what kind of scene would this tree be in, and like based on its style, and then like what kind of dragon would be in that kind of environment, and then like
nice.
make that dragon and stick it on that pot, and so it's like I think that I like low key I'm into pinging, but I say bonsai because that's the correct marketing term. Uh, it gets the most clicks on Etsy, but I really like the idea of creating more of these like uh, not natural but like supernatural sort of
Yeah.
compositions.
I think it's neat when the imagination like plays a big part. And I was also thinking about dragons recently. Dragons must be in the air. Yeah. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to take the maybe classic pot and move it into a different direction, and you can always come back to the
Oh
classic
yeah,
pot
no,
and move.
both are
Yeah.
super important. I
Yeah.
make my standard pots too.
Well, it was interesting when I was talking to Jonas at the Midori show recently. He spent, 20 minutes looking at my pots and talking about them. And, I think he comes from more of a traditional background where
Hmm.
the pots are pretty neutral in color. And, he was saying like American potters tend to use bright colors. And I use a lot of iron in the clay, which has speckling, which I never even thought about. He's like, yeah, there might be a little too much speckling. And,
Which
and
is
he was like,
divine.
yeah, right. Which I was, he was giving me a lot of suggestions. And what I loved is at the end of what he was telling me, he's like, with all I've said, feel free to disregard any of it and do what's fun for you. And I
I
really
love that.
appreciated that he was like, well, this is where I'm coming from. You can take it or leave it, and I
I
thought that was cool.
I love that. Okay, so I really love and respect the tradition because that's where things have to come from. And like culturally, it comes from a different place entirely. And we're kind of taking it and we're artists, so we're like imbuing our culture into this thing. Just that's kind of just what happens.
Yeah, you can't help
And
but do
the
that.
American people are not necessarily subtle when we well, especially me, I'm like down here in Texas, I'm like, do you see how big these speckles are? They're the biggest speckles in the country.
It'll be bigger. Yeah,
But the form, but there's so much, there's a clay body, there's form, there's glazing, there's surface, like, and all of it revolves around stylistic choices for a container that's basically going to be pants for a tree. So like
yeah,
your pants could be any kind of thing.
right. And there's so many people out there. Somebody might like that
Yeah,
color or style or
agreed.
whatever it is. Yeah.
But also, it's kind of like if you have to define your goals, right? Because like if you have this goal where you want to like see your pots in shows, you're gonna have to conform to what the shows are looking for, as far as like what they want their pots to be. Because you're not, that's like there's rules for a reason in those
Right,
situations, kind of to
right.
define a boundary. So if you're working outside of boundaries, like I don't ever really expect to see one of my wild purple dragon pots at nationals. I'm open to it, but like I wouldn't say that would be like a hard expectation for me because
Right.
that's wild.
Maybe we could make a new category. Like this would be the wild and
Maybe. That's
crazy.
what I mean. I'm saying I'm open to it.
That
But
would be
also, I
fun.
think that it's a little crazy to expect something so outlandish to make it into a place where there are these borders and these, like, categories for a reason. Because it gives you something to strive towards necessarily.
Yeah. Do you know the Purple Pot Society?
Yes, I listened to Carmen on the Little Things for Bonsai People podcast.
Oh,
You should
that's
check them
cool.
out.
I
It's a
should
super
check that
good
out.
one.
Yeah. I mean, I think, with and like every once in a while I do make purple pots because I think that's cool. I think it's neat that I mean, it seems like they're a pretty, grounded organization that's really working to improve diversity and they've got this purple pot idea, which I think is really neat.
I do too. I'm hoping to be able to like give them some purple pots so they can like raffle or auction or something. I think that'd
Oh
be really
yeah,
fun.
that's a good idea.
Like a big
Yeah.
purple pot auction. Like everyone develops a purple.
Yeah, because all purple glazes are so different. I mean, everyone's pot would look so different.
Do you have a purple in your arsenal of glazes?
I brought one here.
Nice.
This color is called flambe, and it needs to go on thicker. Like when I poured it, I poured it. I'm holding the pot upside down. And I poured it. This was where it's kind of green. That was the first layer, and then where I poured it again, that purple is the second layer.
Is that like a chrome purple?
I don't know. I'm not really into glazing. I could try to get into glazing, but
You don't have to.
I kind of like to be at the wheel. Are you firing in a gas kiln or an electric kiln?
Oh, I fire electric. I live in the middle of town. If I'd love a gas kiln, but it would be
Yeah.
crazy. People would be like, "What's going on over there?"
Yeah.
So yeah, and also I live in Texas, so we have drought down here. So I think there might be some rules with that potentially.
Well, I fire at a community, it's a community pottery studio called, there's one that's called Blossom Hill Crafts, and the other one is Higher Fire in downtown San Jose. And they're both gas, but the one that's like, the first one, Blossom Hill Crafts, is in a neighborhood and it's kind of been grandfathered in. And, I think the neighbors are always like, what is going on? Why is there, there's like fire, just like huge fire happening right next to them. But so far, everything's been good, so hopefully.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing, they're pretty safe. I just can't imagine that somebody would say something. If I'm out here in August when it's like 120
Right.
degrees with a flame going, they'd be like, "This lady's crazy."
Wow. Yeah, yeah, right.
But like, I like my electric kiln because I'm a really really big fan of teal and like copper, and I love the copper greens. So
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
here I am making copper greens. Hope you guys love them. I got matte greens. I got shiny greens. I got all kinds of greens.
That's awesome. Yeah, you get beautiful colors in the electric kiln, like really vibrant.
I love the reduction kit. It's always like if you have curly hair, you want straight hair. If you have an electric
Yeah,
kiln, you want to
right.
fire a reduction. Like.
Right. I want to go do the wood firing.
Yes. You know what really interests me is soda firing.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've seen some people do that. I love that surface. It's a
Yeah.
little more obnoxious than wood firing, but I guess that checks and tracks with my current trajection. Lots of
Right.
yellows and blues. It seems it's super pretty.
Oh,
Atmospheric firing in general is just really cool. I've gotten to do a raku. Have you had experience with
I've
a raku?
done. We do raku at the studio where I teach. Also, I don't do that much raku. I've done it once, but there's something about it not being vitrified that it doesn't really
Yeah.
get to that vitrification temperature where it doesn't excite me as much. Except the surfaces really are beautiful. Yeah, I want it to be really strong, and yeah.
see.
So I'm
It's-
like not sure about raku.
I make stuff for myself, but I would never sell it. Because it's like, I have some planters that I've made with raku, and like, they're disintegrating from the inside.
Oh, they
Just
are.
for anybody listening who thinks that the raku work is cool. But I guess it depends on your clay body, because mine is definitely, I was using a white stoneware, not a raku fire clay, so it's definitely not vitrified for sure, because it's
Right.
like a cone, 6th clay body.
Right. Yeah, and I think doesn't that raku temperature just only go to like 1,000 or is it
It's
1,500?
low. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that the glaze is below bisque. I'm pretty sure. Because I'm
Oh,
pretty sure
okay.
bisque is, like, you bisque it to 04, At least that's my bisque temperature. And then I think the
Yeah.
raku glaze firing is like maybe 014, maybe
Oh,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's a big
Something
difference. Yeah.
something lower. I might be wrong. I could be vastly wrong. I've
Yeah,
never
you're
ran the
probably in the
raku
ballpark. It sounds
firing.
good enough to me.
Someone has always been like there with tongs and they were like, hold your trash can. Like I haven't
Right.
actually ran the firing, so it's
Yeah.
been, but it's still they're cool pots, but they are falling apart on me from the inside. Like they're deteriorating with the water and the soil
Wow.
and the whatever's going on in there.
Do they are your Raku pots are they outside? Are they changing color or like
They're
losing some of
inside
the
and they have not changed color. The only one that's holding up has lithops in it, the little butts or little toes,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I
And they
only
don't have
water
so much
them once a
water.
year.
Right.
So, and I've got them planted in straight akadama just because it looks cool. That one's fine. But all the other ones, like one of them I have an orchid in, and it's planted in orchid bark, not like a dense, nasty thing, but it's still kind of deteriorating around the rim. And the other one I have a Christmas cactus in, which is an orchid bark mixed with a little bit of potting soil because it needed just a little more for the roots than just bark. And that one is deteriorating the fastest because yeah,
Wow.
thicker, holds more water.
Huh.
But
That's really cool.
that's been my experience. But I think that a lot would depend on the clay that you're using and how vitrified the glaze is, that and how you were glazing and finishing too, because people might be able to get more sturdy work out of raku. Can't write it off. I just didn't.
Right, right, right. There's more to learn.
For sure, for sure. It's like such a process. I was like, when I switched to ceramics, I was like, I could do ceramics forever. Like I've
Yeah.
never felt so passionate about painting. Like I still like the fact that I can paint, but even painting feels like something I've rolled into ceramics. You know, like just like
Yeah.
you paint on your ceramics, you're like, well, I could paint on clay, and now it's a cup. Now I
Right.
can do something. I
You
love
know
it.
what I love about ceramics too? It's like when you're done with whatever you're making in ceramic ware, like you're done. It's done. You
Yeah.
can't go like with a painting. You're like, hey, I might just touch this up, or I'm going to change this background, or the colors here aren't right. But once it comes out of the kiln, like your mug comes out, that's it.
Yeah.
You're
It's the
committed to that. You could
finality.
maybe try to refire, but it's like, oh, that's done. It's sometimes it's easier if you don't like it, just make a new one.
God,
Yeah.
I am so like I will cut you at any part in the process. As far as like if you're a mug, not like a human. But like if you're
Okay, what?
a mug, no, like if you're a mug and like I ding the rim, I'm like cut into the bucket. Like if or if you know like it gets weird near the handle cracks a little, but while you're drying into the bucket. Like
Right.
if I pull you out of the bisque and there's a crack on the rim, into the pile of failure. I don't like you can just be cut at any point in the process, and it's just whoever makes it at the end.
Yeah. The survivors.
Hopefully, as I get better, there are more survivors.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I like to keep exploring different forms and ways of doing stuff, so I'm always doing something weird. So I'm like, well, I'm always going to have a certain degree of failure if I'm always trying something new. So,
Yeah, I think like for me with ceramics, I have an idea in my head of what I want to do. I like work until I get that idea, and then I'm like, I'm done. I should probably like continue making the same thing now that I figured it out, but I'm ready for the next
the
new
next
challenge.
adventure.
Yeah.
Since I do this like full time, I kind of balance it. I played this Etsy game where I'm like, okay, well, if y'all will buy it, I'll make another one. So I do
Oh,
remake
smart.
things like that on for whatever for Etsy, like different mug styles and cups and stuff. Like if it gets made or sold, I'll make another one. So I do that, but then I'm also doing like whatever on the side. I really love exploring clay bodies, like the different types of clays. I on my YouTube that I do these different like I throw with that order in 50 pounds and throw a whole 50 pounds with it and talk about it, and like just some are just so interesting. Like the weirdest one I did that hurt my feelings the most recently was the Klamath Yellow from Seattle Pottery Supply.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, it
Does
was so
does
beautiful.
does it come out kind of yellow?
It's a red, well, it's a red iron or yellow iron oxide red clay body.
Oh, wow.
So the wet clay is made with yellow iron oxide, so it's yellow, like mustard
seen
yellow.
that.
It will stain your life yellow. It's intense, just like red, but like it fires to this awesome orange magenta. But like I could not get the drying right with this clay, and I cracked all the bottoms of my bonsai pots. It's a sad day.
That is a sad day. Do you have Laguna clays down there? Do you do
Yeah,
Laguna? Okay.
we have
Yeah,
them.
we've got a clay called Hawaiian that's a nice red clay.
Ooh.
That's been kind of fun. and another one which I don't really use, but it's kind of interesting. It's called dragon fruit, and it's got these speckles in it.
I did that one too.
That dragon fruit, yeah, that's cool. And then the one I'm kind of interested in now is called charcoal. That's cone 5/6, and it's
Where's
black.
that one? Laguna?
Like,
Is that the
Laguna, yeah.
porcelain?
No, there is a black sable clay, but I don't know if that's cone 10. Wait,
Oh yeah,
are you
need
firing?
cone 10.
Are you firing?
I
cone
fired a cone 6, 5 or
Yeah.
6. I like 5 with a little good long hold to get to cone 6, like for temperature work, but it's like 5, but it is 6. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, but that Hawaiian, the charcoal, and that dragon fruit, those are cone 5/6. I just bumped into this pot. I've been working on this like tree bark.
How are you doing that? Is that silica carb or?
Yeah, sodium silicate, and so this, for those of you guys listening, this is a little round pot. Maybe it's like 4 or 5 inches in diameter, and it's got all this crustiness.
Yeah, that nice
happening
breaking
outside.
on it. Is that red iron oxide for the finish on that?
Yes, yeah.
You're so good at getting that red iron oxide.
Well,
to
you know
do
what? That's the
want.
thing about the reduction kiln is that iron oxide that's on there, it kind of turns back into metal, but in oxidation, like in an electric kiln,
It's
won't.
rusty.
It doesn't have the same like metallic shine.
I
to it.
love the metallic. I've been
do
chasing a
too.
metallic glaze. I make glazes. Like,
Oh, wow.
so I don't like develop them from scratch. I tweak ones that other people have made.
Yeah, that's a great one to do it.
To figure out a metallic, and I've got a few, and they run so fast.
Oh.
And sometimes they make these nice little micro crystals because they're semi-matte metallics, and that's what
Wow.
I want them to do. But then sometimes they just make this disgusting glossy surface and run off to the shelf.
All off. This was made with sodium silicate, so I make the round pot, and then I have the walls bent in. I do a coat of slip of white. So this is dark clay, and then I put white slip on the outside. Then I put the sodium silicate on there. Then I take like a small blowtorch and dry it just until that outside is dry, and then I'll push the walls from the inside to the outside and until you get cracking. And it's fun because it's like just really
Random and
unpredictable.
nice, and it looks like it's reminiscent to the patterns in the tree trunks for a lot of some
Yeah,
trees, especially the older ones.
What was interesting is Jonas looked at this pot, and I really love this pot, and he's like, how would you use it? You would need a tree that's got amazing bark to put in there, and
Yeah,
there's not,
that's super tiny. It'd be like a masterpiece shohin.
yeah, and not everyone has that, so
Yeah,
like,
that's what you tell me. You're like, well, get a masterpiece shohin.
Right, of
What are
course.
you doing?
Yeah,
Go get one.
like, hello?
To the woods with you.
So that was an interesting comment, that this pot that I want to make like 100 of these or whatever, I want to make a lot of them.
Yeah.
He's like, well, they're not as useful as a very plain pot. And I was like, oh man.
You could make them huge though. That would be
Yeah.
because some of that collected material, it's already a lot older,
Yeah, that's
and it would
true.
have
Yeah.
that ruggedness to it. And you're over there in collection land, like we're
I'm kind of new to bonsai. Like, I hear people collecting stuff, but like, where are you collecting this exactly? Like, you
I
can
have
go to the
questions
state
too sometimes.
park. You can't. Like, and actually, I might know some people that live in the mountains nearby. We've got
Yeah.
like, the Santa Cruz Mountains nearby. We've got the redwoods around here too. But like, if I went to their property, like, I could understand that. But I don't know where people are collecting things.
Well, my club, we did our collection in conjunction with a city park. So what they basically said was, they were like, okay, bonsai club people, here's a giant bag, fill it with garbage and take whatever trees you want.
Oh.
So, because there's
Sounds like a good
forested
deal.
areas in the park. So, I mean, we didn't, we weren't out there to excavate a forest. Like, everyone grabbed like 5 little trees from the park and we all went home. Like,
Yeah.
and we all filled big bags of trash and, helped clean up the park while we were out there wandering through the woods. It was a lot of fun. But I feel the vein of concern, because I've thought about this too, where it's like, there's a level where I think we might reach a commodification of trees, and I don't think that that's good. Because a commodification of anything natural like that has historically not been great. From feathers to
Yeah.
horses, all kinds of stuff. It's been just historically not bueno. So just for anyone listening, I think it's good to consider, if you are going to collect a tree, think about where you're taking it from and
Yeah.
What if everybody took one from where you're taking it from?
I've been thinking that it would be a good idea to go to like a construction site that's in
Yes,
the
those are great
Yeah, because they're
opportunities.
gonna just bulldoze all the little things that are around. I was like, and I've been thinking like I should just drive around and find where those are and be like, hey, do you mind before you
Yeah, could we
bulldoze
clear
here for your
cut
house?
this?
Yeah, could I have that redwood right there or whatever
Right.
it is? Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people doing that. I think that's great too, because then you're saving and
Yeah.
and there's permission if you know people with land and down here we call it urban yamadori or yardadori,
Oh
where
yeah.
like sometimes people will contact our bonsai club and be like, hey, we're changing our landscaping, would you like a bunch of crepe myrtles or
Right.
something like
Or
that?
these junipers
So
need to come out and they've been here for 20 years.
right,
Yes.
just like that, so you
Yeah.
get to get some cool material that way too. Like there's lots of great ways to collect material, and then there's a lot of interesting people now that are starting to grow material and like field grow material, so they're getting material out there,
Yeah.
which is good. Then we don't have to make weird choices. There's
Yeah.
getting these
And I mean,
suspect trees.
like I'm such a beginner that I'm fine going to our local,
Oh
hardware
yeah, the
store.
nursery.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't. My collected trees are not gonna. They are. I love them, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I am definitely learning, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone looked at it and went, "Why'd you pick that one?" I'm like, I don't
Right.
know. I
Listen,
thought
I'm just trying to
he
keep
was
them
neat.
alive. I water
Hmm.
them. I look at
I'm a
them. They make me feel
I'm a
good.
potter. I'm just trying to
Right.
understand.
Right.
So you're using Laguna clays in general?
We also have a pottery store near us, and they manufacture clays, which is a great thing. And there's a couple places in the Bay Area here in Northern California that manufacture clay. So we get our clay from different people who
Nice.
make clay. Laguna is one of them. Clay Planet is the local one around here, but there's other, I think we go to, you probably don't know these places, but Alameda is across the San Francisco Bay, and I think we get our
Uh-huh.
clay from there too. Yeah. Yeah,
Sweet.
and I belong to these two community studios, so I feel really fortunate in that way that there's a lot of clay selection.
Yeah, that is great. Community studios are great too. I worked in one for a little bit, but it's just hard for me to drive into Dallas. It's like an hour for me.
Oh, yeah, that's a big
But
commitment.
I also I'm very pro. Like I like hide in a hobbit hole in my home and fire at home and have a wheel in my living room. But like I am very pro community studio. I
Yeah.
think they're really great, and you can you look at someone, you're like, what are you doing over there, Ted? And then you've got like this whole new idea, and like they're just great places to incubate and learn and work together, share experiences.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
once in a while, I have to treat myself to a workshop so I can go to the pottery potluck.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
When you're using glazes, you're using commercial glazes?
Uh, I mean, these are
Or is it the
big
studio?
10-gallon buckets of glaze
Oh,
that you
yeah.
dip the whole pot in usually, or like I'll pour the glaze on.
Yeah.
So,
Sweet.
yeah, they're all dipping glazes for these pots, or just the iron oxide straight on there
Yeah.
for the unglazed pots.
Those are so nice. Those are probably my favorites. So but you do work at home, right? Like so it's a mixture of studio and homework?
Yeah, we built. I mean, basically a shed. I think it's
Yeah.
supposed to be a greenhouse that we built in the backyard because I kept doing work in the house, and my husband's like, you could get like a shed in the backyard. I was like, I can, and so we bought like a kit and built a small shed. It's just like 10 by 12, and I'm like, I'm getting a wheel. He's like, are you gonna use that? I'm like, yes, yes, I am. And then I just I filled it with like a table and a dresser as my wedging table. And I work at home a lot. Although now that I've been making bigger things, it's nice. I love working at home. I like it when it's really quiet. I like to listen to some kind of story on my phone, or a podcast. And I
Same.
really do enjoy it when it's really quiet. But I've realized like the bigger you get, the easier it is to make it at the studio because you can trim it there. All the trimmings get recycled. It's just a lot easier. But I do enjoy working at home.
Maybe you can just slowly get your own reclaim system going and
Yeah, and actually I do reclaim. So I do reclaim so the one studio I can bring all my reclaim to them, and
mm,
the other studio I just have a huge bucket and
that's
um,
cool.
yeah, filled with
I mean, you can
wet
get
clay.
it all moved to home so that you don't have to go into town to fire as much.
Yeah,
You could get like an electric kiln then bisque. Because are you driving
you
greenware?
know, yeah, I am driving greenware.
Oh, I'm
One
stressed for
time, one
you.
of my kids, like I had all this greenware in the back of the minivan, and he didn't know, and he just tossed his sports bag like over the back. I was like, I didn't know. So like I couldn't get mad at him.
Oh,
But a lot of
no.
pots did break. Yeah, a kiln would be good for bisque. It would be
Yeah, I mean, you could just get, you don't even need to get like I mean, I probably would recommend that you get like a cone tin kiln, but you could just get a little baby one to biscuit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a slippery slope though, because then you'd be like, or I could glaze them.
Right. I don't ever need to leave this shed ever, just for food.
That's kind of how mine is. Mine's in my living room, so we don't like, we have an office, it's just me and my husband, so I was like, we don't need a living room.
You have
People
your
don't
kiln
cook.
in your living room?
Oh, no. The
Oh.
kiln is out back, like,
I was like, oh.
very far from the house in its own little shed, because I don't vent it. But the wheel and the table for everything is all in the
wow.
living room. But I reclaimed my clay outside on the back porch, so that mess
That's
is
so
outside.
great. Do you have really good lighting? Because like living rooms often have big
Oh
windows.
yeah, it's got it's south-facing windows face into the studio, and then west-facing window on the other wall. So it's full of plants in the window. It's really great. I love my space. And we just talked about like, oh, well, we could put you outside and get you a space. And I was like, I like it in here. It's got central air conditioning.
Are you tracking, like, do you have like clay footprints? Or
No, I'm really careful. Like I have my wheel area is like I created a wall room out of shower curtains.
oh, that's smart.
And so there's also like a shower curtain wall around my wheel basically, and like the bottom is like, you know those plastic things you put under rolly chairs so they don't ruin your hardwood
yeah,
floor?
right.
My wheel and my seat are all sitting on top of a huge one of those. So when I'm
Smart.
done and I've cleaned everything, the last thing I clean with my microfiber towel is the floor.
Yeah, wow.
So I
that's
wipe
smart.
everything down, and it's like I don't leave like crap everywhere, but I don't clean my splash pan every day. I used to, but now I just don't.
Yeah,
It's,
I don't think you have.
I throw with a little tiny bit of water, so it's never like the swamp in there. So that's fine. I
Yeah.
don't clean that anymore.
I have like clay footprints that like lead from my little shed to the house.
Well, I guess I do leave little remnants sometimes, like on the you can see my little raccoon clay fingerprints on the fridge. Where I'm like,
Right, on the door to get in the
At the-
house, or like
the thing that says water. On the door to the back porch, the closet to the pantry, all that.
signs that a potter has been there.
Right. So, like, what's your studio practice look like? What's it like from start to finish? Like, you take a ball of clay and make it into a bonsai pot.
That is a great question, the studio practice. Like, I always think I'm going to have a schedule. I mean, I would love to have a schedule where it's like Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, you know, or Friday I ship things out. And I don't know, it always kind of falls apart or
Yeah.
something else comes up. I mean, probably what most potters do and what I love to do is if I'm in my backyard shed, I've got my clay, I've got balls of clay wedged up. I mean, for these bonsai pots, it would be really smart if I could make several of the same, but I never do. I just, each ball of clay is its own size. You know, I've been really thinking about my Etsy store too, in that if you just have one of a thing, you got to take all these pictures of it to put it on Etsy. It's its own listing, and it's a lot of work. If I could make like 5 of the same, it would be one set of pictures for that one pot, but I do not do that. And so I'll throw a whole bunch of pots. Like I have pots all over like on the table, on the wedging table, on the floor. There's tons of pots everywhere. And then hopefully so I have to plan so that the next day I have 3 so I can trim them all.
Yeah.
And then they get loaded into the car, they get brought to the studio, they get fired. And then when I'm glazing at these community studios, I try to arrive either really early in the morning, like 6:30, when there aren't any other people there, so I can kind of follow through and focus. If there's other people there, I just have a conversation with them. And then I forget what I'm doing. So I do try to either be there late or early to glaze so that I don't get distracted or distract myself.
That makes sense. I can be chatty too.
Yeah, I'm actually taking, do you know the artist Naomi Clement? I'm taking her.
Not, but I will look her up.
Yeah, she makes great pottery, not bonsai pots, but great pottery, and a lot of it's hand built. And I'm taking her, I can't remember what it's called exactly. It's like Better Business Practices course, or where I'll like write up an artist statement, and I'll learn about, you know, galleries and selling. I don't know if bonsai pots would even go in a gallery, but I'm kind of excited
Potentially.
to get through her class and her lectures to see what I can pick up to improve my business and just
Grow.
make it maybe more efficient or professional. I don't know. I don't really know. I guess I need to figure out where I'm going to,
Yeah, that
you
makes
know.
sense.
Yeah.
Orientation. I don't think any of us know what we're doing. I
Right.
don't
I
have
think
any
it's
idea.
important to do though. Like I believe in
Yes,
making a
yes,
lot. Just do a lot, make a lot, and
yes.
someone will find it and kind of hopefully take you to that next step. Like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, we get to work together. It's that collaboration with each other. We
Yeah.
create this thing, and now you're gonna be one of the artists on the Bonsai podcast. Like,
Yeah.
this
It's
is a step.
awesome.
You're here.
I've made
Uh,
it.
yes. This is not the peak, though. It's just the launching off point.
Right.
Do
Right.
you have you listened to any of the podcasts through with Ryan Neal through Bonsai Mirai? Like
I've
when
seen some of his YouTube videos, but I haven't listened to the podcast. It's actually on my list of things to do.
Well, it's overwhelming because there's a lot of it. So if I mean, just listen to the whole thing by all means. Like I've caught up on it, but the particularly interesting are the interviews with different potters. Like there's interviews with like Sarah Rayner and some other different potters, and like
yeah.
I found that listening to him interview those potters inspired me to make this podcast. I was like,
Oh,
we need
cool.
more of this. I love these episodes.
I think if
So
you know, and if you're listening to these podcasts, if you can get like one gem out of it, like something that's
yes.
helpful for you or can move you to the next step, that's so important.
Also, there was like this inner throwback in me to a time before I was even alive where I was like, we're reinventing talk radio, guys. We're doing it.
Yeah.
It's coming full circle.
We're going to talk about art all day.
It's going to be great. The moment of a lifetime. Art talk radio.
Yeah.
Born for this.
Right, right. Well, I think it is really important in the United States to actually have these discussions about art. And I don't even know if I'm like the best person to talk about art, but I feel like in the
I think
US,
everyone's
like
qualified.
we don't really talk about art that much. Like I feel like if you're in Europe or maybe if you're in Japan or there's just more discussion about beautiful things that get made. And I don't know. I think a lot of the industry in the United States, I mean, especially where I am, which is Silicon Valley, is engineering or computers, which I mean,
Yeah.
those are great. Like we couldn't have this discussion without the
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
engineers
They made the
or
kiln.
computer science. Yeah, exactly. But it would be nice to have maybe more opinions on art. I don't know, or get it out into the world more.
Just make it more commonplace. Do you do any work outside of bonds or outside of ceramics anymore?
No, when I got out of college, I was kind of like traveling around and I had one show in a gallery of my paintings. And then when I came back after traveling around after college, I came home to where my parents were living and I started I had an art studio and this kid came in and we had open studios and the dad was like, well, what do you think about this place? And the little kid, she was like 5. She's like, yeah, I want to take lessons here. And he looked at me, he's
Aw.
like, do you give lessons? And I was like, well, I can. And so I opened like a small art school for young kids, and the tables were like kid height, and the chairs were all kid height, and they would come after school, and kids that weren't in school yet would also come. So I did that for a few years, and then when my children were born, I couldn't do both; it was too hard. So I became a full-time mom. And then
Nice.
now my kids are teenagers, they can drive, and I
Yeah.
really believe that this is my time. If I'm going to do this ceramics thing, it's got to be now. Like my kids can get themselves places, they can cook for themselves if they need to, and now is the time for me. If I'm going to do this, now is the time.
Well, you've been killing it from what
Aw.
I'm seeing. I mean, I follow you on the social media and see you at the 99-cent auction. Your work is great.
Oh, thank you.
It's clean. It's super clean work. Mine's got that wobble to it where everyone's like, "Did she mean to do that?" And yours is like that super tight, like nice.
I'm gonna
clean
look
work.
you up now because I only know you as the podcast. I didn't know there was like a person behind it. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
So,
I'm Blue Nose Trading on most things, but I can't post from my Facebook Blue Nose Trading page to that auction because it won't let me post videos and photos
Oh.
at the same time from my page for whatever reason. So I
okay.
just sacrificed my personal page. So on there, I'm myself, Tori Solis, but I always bump my post with my page, Blue Nose Trading, which is I'm there.
Yeah.
I've seen your stuff there. It's super great.
Managing the social media is complicated.
I'm so
it's-
over it.
It's really complicated, and people want to see your face, and I'm like, okay, are you ready? I'm gonna start talking, and why am I talking so loud?
Oh, I don't like it. it felt like the whole like holding the camera to your face and being like, "Hi guys, I'm doing a thing." Like it felt so inauthentic for me, and I didn't like the way it made me feel, so I stopped trying to do it. So my whole feed, I'm not even a person. I'm just hands.
Yeah, I had no idea who you were.
I'm kind of shy, and I also I don't like to come into a room and scream for people to look at me necessarily. So sometimes I'm in spaces and I don't feel the need to announce all my YouTube and podcasts. You know, like I don't know. There's a time and a place. So if it comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, and I mention it. But I'm not just gonna walk into the room and be like, hello, here's my YouTube. Like and subscribe.
Right.
Like, oh, it's exhausting. Those people exhaust me, so I just try to not do that.
I do think subtle is better. Yeah, and people will find
it's
you.
a balance, though. It's a balance, though, between being subtle and being seen. Because I'm like, I'm always thinking about it. Probably thinking about it too much. Like, when is it appropriate? I always try to think about it. What are your goals for this ceramic practice? Like, you're building a whole small business and...
Yeah, and actually right now I'm teaching a workshop on doing silkscreen transfers, which has nothing to do with bonsai pots. So
it could.
It could, yeah. So I've kind of gotten just slightly, I don't know if distracted is the right word, but I'm putting together a lot of time goes into that. I guess, yeah, what is my goal? That's a good question. Should we figure it out now?
I mean, we can if you want to work through it. I mean, what does success look like for you in your heart? Is it money? Is it prestige? Is it just an accomplishment of pursuing your passions?
When I recently went to our club's formal yearly show, and I saw these great trees and I saw these beautiful pots, and I was like, oh, I'd like to try to make something similar to that, and I'd like to try to make something similar to that. But one of the pots that was in the show was very small. This little shohin was my pot, and with a tree and I know, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so proud, and I think that was great. So
yeah,
I guess I just like to see my work being used. I think to see it out in the world, that when people send pictures back of their trees in my pots, that's good for me. And I just am the kind of person that wants to keep making things. So if I can keep making something and people are able to use it, that is kind of my goal, is to...
Oh, that sounds easy enough.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is keep making pots.
Just keep making
You're doing great. And that's good. It's a blessing to be simple, honestly. Just to have simple goals. That's
right. What's your goal?
I have no idea.
Right. See, maybe in this business practices class that I'm taking, maybe I'll figure that out.
I think my goal is to keep making my bills and maybe eventually get to a point where I can feel like I have some sort of stability. Would be cool.
It's really hard. I do kind of joke with our family that the money that I bring in, it kind of takes care of my dog. I can cover the dog. She had surgery, okay, I can cover that. But that's it. We're not paying a mortgage or buying a car with the money I make. I mean, it would be really great to be able to, financially support in more of a practical way. My kids are now looking into going to college. I do have one in college, and my daughter's I was like, well, are you interested in art? She's like, yeah, but I want to make money, so, which is, it's
tough.
Yeah, it's tough, and I can understand that. I mean, you should be independent. Everybody should be able to support themselves in some way. So I can understand that. And the art, I don't know about you, but the art education I got was, okay, you know how to paint, you know how to draw, you have a resume, and you have a gallery show, go in the world. And it's very difficult.
And you're like, hello world, and they're like, okay.
You're an art major, you're not graphic design, you're not web design, you're not animation. So if I had to give my daughter advice, I would say, you are so talented in art, and pick something where you're going to get a job, like animation or maybe even cinematography or graphic design or product design, something where you can find a job. I'm in a fortunate situation now where I do have the time to make my pottery. So
yeah, I agree. I think a lot of us are in fortunate situations. My husband supports me, and I mean, I pull my end, but without his support, I would not be able to do what I'm doing. So I would like to be able to flip it and be able to be the support with my stuff. So I just but also I have an artistic outlook on things. I'm real stubborn. Like, I really don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah,
So, like,
right.
that's a whole thing to unpack. But for now, like,
I agree. I mean, I was talking to one of my kids and I was like, I never tried to be in the corporate world. I've heard of artists that go work for Adobe. And
oh
I'm like, oh, you could,
no.
and my son, like, that was Dakota, was like, I don't think you'd want to be in in corporate America. I'm like, I think you're right. So I never tried it. I just always did my own thing.
That's awesome. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm like 30, and 20-year-old me wanted to be a Starbucks store manager.
Yeah.
And man, that was a terrible experience. I learned a lot.
Oh.
There's a lot of corporate politics, and like I am kind and I am friendly, but like sometimes I'm about as approachable as a rattlesnake, and I don't mean to be, but like
Yeah.
just my face sometimes, and it's just not for me. I love people and talking and stuff, but sometimes it just, if you came up to me at my booth, you'd be like, is she mad? I'm like, no, I'm really nice.
I didn't realize until, so I'm almost 50, I'm 49, and I didn't realize until maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago, like I am an introvert, and I read a book on introverts, and I was like, this is me. Like, when someone asks me to go out, I'm like, no, thanks. If they're like, let's go to a concert where there's going to be loud music for hours, I'm like, no, I can't do that.
Was it Quiet?
Like,
Was that book, Quiet?
yes, by, I forgot her name.
Susan?
Yeah,
I think
Susan
it's Susan
Cain?
something.
Or, I can't
Maybe.
remember. That, I was like, I've always thought I was so weird. And then I read that. I'm like, no, I'm not weird. I'm just an introvert. And
Yeah.
so I don't, like, one of my jobs is to be a teacher. I teach, hand building class, and I'll teach beginner wheel pottery, and I have a class for teenagers. And when it's my lunch break, I go hide, and I just need to be quiet for an hour before my next class so that I can like rejuvenate myself. And I didn't know that I need quiet in order to like repower.
Yeah, to like regenerate.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm definitely an introvert too. I definitely understand that.
And so it's hard when you're at those sales and you have
Yes.
spent days pricing and packaging up all your work, and you finally got the pop-up tent that you're getting from your friend, and you have the 3 tables, and you have the tablecloths, and you have all your work, and you get to that site, you set the whole thing up, and you're exhausted, like right off the bat,
Oh my gosh.
and then everyone's like, you hope that there's a lot of people coming up and talking
Did you
to
make these?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Why is the price so high? Because it's handmade.
Oh gosh, that one will grind me into an unfriendly person. That will grind the kindness out of me. And I don't love that. But man, after a while, I'm just like, here's my YouTube. You can watch me make it
Yeah.
and decide if it's worth that or not. Like,
Right.
I trimmed these butts.
Yeah. And I don't know what the best way is to get your work out. Like, do you go to these public sales? Do you do Etsy where you have to ship
I think
stuff?
it depends on your personality. Do you listen to the Wheel Talk podcast? I'm just
No,
hitting you up
I'm
with new
writing-
podcasts.
Writing this
No, okay,
down.
so Wheel Talk is with Ryan and Becca, and they are both wildly different people, and they talk about the business part of being a ceramic artist.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
that's their core focus, but it's really laid back, and a lot of talk radio and like empty content that I love. But like also they talk about business and interview people, and what I've learned most from their podcast is like the perspective that there are so many ways to do this, and it just depends on you. Because some people excel at shows because they can just talk to people and they have that natural like charisma to get people to just love them immediately. And then people, they love them. Like, I love you, man. I'm gonna buy this pot. It's the most basic pot or the greatest pot. Doesn't matter. I'm buying it because I love you, man.
Yeah.
I don't have that natural, is it magnanimity? I'm trying to use a big word.
I
The
don't know.
natural
Yeah.
attractiveness.
Magnetism, maybe?
Yes, that's it. I
don't
don't
know. I
have
think
that
you have
necessarily.
that. I think you do
Oh,
have that.
I get
yeah.
maybe it's just the introversion. I get exhausted and then I'm
It's
hard on
it's
myself.
tiring. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
But you're right. I think people that are extroverts and they have a lot of words, they have a lot of ability to communicate. They enjoy that. I mean, I do enjoy connections with people, but
Yeah, me too.
it's hard. If I'm tired, then I need to wrap it up and I need to go home.
know.
Yeah.
Like, if I had a bad setup and the lady who was just telling me how to park was rude, like, now,
Right.
if the Starbucks lady did not make my latte with soy milk this morning, like,
Right?
ah!
Right. It's really hard.
It can be tough. I have a horror story this weekend, actually. I'm doing Arts Goggle at Fort Worth. It is 27 blocks, 1,000 artists, 50 musicians, and, like, I don't know how I got talked into this, but it's also a 14-hour day.
Wow. Do you have someone helping you?
Yes, I'm taking my husband.
Those husbands, they're good. It's hard to
You're coming with me.
If I rope my husband in, he's like, okay. I mean,
I don't do a lot of shows because, like I said, it's tough for me. They take a lot out of me. I like online sales because I love photography. I love doing the photos and getting the things and making the listings and but if you hate editing photos, maybe it would be better if you went and talked to people. You know, it just depends on where your set of strength lies.
What festival are you doing?
It's called Arts Goggle in Fort Worth.
Do you know the Texas Clay Festival?
Yeah, it's down in New Brunsfeld.
I never grew it.
Down south. I think it's either just north or just south of Austin.
I have the card for it somewhere. Maybe. No, I don't know where it is right now, but my friend's friend started that clay festival.
Oh,
she's like, Denise, awesome. You should start a clay festival. I was like, ah.
You're like, that's a lot.
That's a lot. I probably won't be making work because I'll be doing this other stuff.
It's so hard. That's another thing too, is all the juggling the responsibilities. Did I need to make a podcast?
Right.
I'm gonna edit this now.
Well, this is a really nice connection. I mean, it's a really neat connection to see your face and talk about pottery. I mean, it's cool because it connects. I'm connected with you, and then we'll connect to whoever wants to listen to this. You know, it'll be.
Oh,
cool.
I definitely love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I would say, my dogs. It's outside of my comfort zone. Okay. Well, I think we're coming up on our hour. This has been a fantastic talk.
Yeah.
I really have enjoyed your energy. So, where can people find all of your work online and your Etsy? Hold on. All right.
All right,
cool. Done.
I wonder what your dogs are up to.
I think it's the mail.
Oh, right.
Someone knocked on the door, so now they're all hollering. Sorry.
No problem. You can find me on Instagram at Denise Soultanian. I'll just spell my last name for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Soultanian. And you can find me on Etsy at DMS Pottery. You can find me on Facebook at DMS Pottery Bonsai if you want. Or I have an art page too because I was trying to separate those, which is just DMS Pottery.
I think I followed the wrong one, but I'm going to go follow the right one.
Yeah.
Well, both of them.
It's crazy to have. I have 3 Facebook pages. Crazy.
And if Facebook makes up notifications now. They're like, hey,
and then they send you to Meta Facebook business page, and I'm so confused. I do like Instagram. I like that it's a picture. It's very clear. Yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, Denise. We will leave it at that. This podcast is brought to you by Blue Nose Trading, which is me and all my patrons. You can get early access to unreleased podcast episodes and YouTube videos by becoming a patron of my work at patreon.com/bluenosetrading. You can find all of my current available ceramic work on my website, bluenosetrading.com. For social media links and information about today's artist, be sure to check out the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Remember that you have great ideas that are worth exploring, drink lots of water, and I will see y'all next time around.